Welcome, my name is Bjorn Barrett, and this is the Google Weekly Podcast, which is part of the AskBj.net network of EdTech services. Never stop learning. This is Episode 2, Google's New Look, and let's pick a time. So what's new in Google? Well, Google has a new look. They've had this new look for a little while out there, and you could opt in, but they have now changed it, so the new look is, well, the default look. So when you log in, you will see this new look no matter which service you have. For a little while longer, you can opt out of it. However, I'm assuming that feature is going away. There is a feedback button which you can give in some cases. The reason why they have added the new look, and I'm getting this from reading between the lines of the blog posts that I have read about, but it seems that they're going to be adding more services, and they wanted to change it up so the new services fit. Am I 100% sold on this? Actually, no, not yet. I think they took out a lot of great features that I used to have, like in the document list. I used to be able to sort by all my presentations. That's gone away. When you first look at your document list, the right-hand information where it used to give, who's shared and different information is also gone. What they did is and the other thing they did is they took all the text-based links that they had and they turned them into buttons. That's already caused some issues for me. Like, I'm looking at the document list right now and I see something that looks like an eyeball. I have no clue what that eyeball is. I can roll over it and it says preview. And when I click on preview, it does bring up that basic information. I see a little thumbnail of the image and I see some who's shared and things like that. My guess is taking that out and making it a separate link, it's probably sped things up for the user. So like I said, they may be taking away some features, but they have a reason for it. Wish they would express that reason a little bit more. It'd be easier to accept. Now, the new look is part of all their core services. So you log into the document list, you log into Docs, you log into Google Sites, the calendar. All of them are part of the new look. Now, let me go into the Docs a little bit, and if I'm looking at a document, I think the document itself is probably more self-explanatory. I've been looking at the new look. I actually don't have an option in mind to go back. So it has some nice little white space and other things. I want to go back to the document list. Now, the document list, when you first look at the new look, it takes a lot of white space and you can't see as much. And someone gave me a little tip. And that tip was to go to the sprocket. And this is where things get actually confusing with Google and which they would kind of go back to using the text-based ones. You go to the sprocket, not the one by your username up top, but the one below next to the word sort. And I'm in the document list right now. And you can click that, and I suggest choosing compact. Once I chose that, actually the document list, the new look of the document list actually felt a lot more comfortable for me, and I was able to get back into doing things. Now, the other place that the new look has really affected me is in Google Sites. And it's just a small pet peeve of mine, but in the old look at the Google Sites, you had, 3 buttons. You had the new button, the edit button, and the more button. Well, the same buttons apply in the new version, but they took out the text. And I don't know which genius did this, but they not only did they take out the text, but they swapped the buttons. So where the new button was is where the edit, and where the edit was is where the new button is. So they took out my text and swapped the buttons. So I'm sitting here in Google Sites. I don't mind using the new look, and I go up there and I go click what used to be the edit button, and I create a new page. Or I go to edit and I create a new page. It's getting some time to get used to, and I don't know why they switched the buttons. I can deal with losing the text, but the switching of the buttons just threw me really for a loop. So the other place that I want to bring about is the calendar. That is the one where I originally noticed it. I'm like, I don't know if I like this. But then I shrunk my window and realized that the text boxes in the month view kind of shrink with it. And that really just kind of sold it for me. And that's a good transition to the other what's new news item, and that is suggested times. When you go into a calendar and you add guests, and you have those guests as part, if you can view their calendar, it'll bring up suggested times that you guys can meet. Now, this is something that I've seen a lot of businesses try and use, and I can see it being very, very helpful, as long as you have the ability to see everybody else's calendar. In a school setting, I guess, for example, I think the best example would be like an interdepartment meeting, and you're trying to get all the math people together as to when they can meet. And normally you'd be able to see their calendar anyways, and if you're a larger school, you'll probably have several different math teachers that you're all trying to connect with. And so when you add those math teachers in, as you add them in, it'll narrow down the appointment times that you guys can actually meet. And that pretty much concludes what's new in Google. And this starts the what's current in Google section of the podcast. And I want to keep with the theme of calendars, and I'm going to talk about appointment slots. The what's new was the suggested times, and now we're talking about appointment slots. Now, the appointment slots, basically, they are slots that you, the user, can put into your calendar that other people can say, I want an appointment at this time. You would enter in an appointment the same exact way, appointment slot the same exact way that you'd enter in one of your own events into the calendar. I guess that's the best way to say it. One of your own events into the calendar. And then you can specify whether you want it to be broken up into different segments. So you can say, I'm available from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock in half an hour increments. I can definitely see this being a big help in the university level when university professors are trying to schedule times where they can meet with the teacher, meet with students. And I've been happy to see this. Now, I haven't actually used this yet, so before the podcast, I jumped in to see how it worked. And how it works is you create the appointment slot, you choose whether you want it to be the entire slot or whether you want it to be broken down into different increments, whether 1 hour, half an hour, 15 minutes. And when you go to the details of that appointment, it will bring up a URL. And is that URL that you would share with other people. Once they get that URL, they'll open it, and then they will see the different slots. And all they got to do is, there's buttons, literally. So you click on the button, and it'll open up the slot, and you can fill your name in, and there you go. You've signed up for the appointment. You're on their calendar. Now, the only one caveat of this is that it does require the other person to also have a Gmail account, but it doesn't have to be a Gmail account on their domain. And I've had some people talking about this, some other uses that it can be in the school. One of the uses that I heard people talking about was like, ooh, this would be great for parent-teacher conferences. And I agree, this would be a great tool for parent-teacher conferences if it wasn't for the requirement that it had to have a Google account to actually sign up for the calendar. If I could have signed up anonymously, I probably would have liked that. Because it has to require the person making the appointment to also have a Google account, I can't guarantee all my students and all my parents have it. I can force all my students to have it, but I can't force all my parents to have it. And with the parent-teacher thing, I need it to be a little bit more open. So I'm still looking for ideas, and if you have some other ideas, other suggestions on how to do parent conferences, especially keeping it within the Google realm, I'd be happy to hear about it. And this concludes the What's Current in Google section of this podcast. And now begins the app exploration section of the podcast. This is where I'll go into the app marketplace and the Chrome Web Store and find an app to highlight each week. These are not necessarily ones I use, but just ones I thought were worth looking at. To try and answer my own question in the previous section about tools that you can use for parent-teacher conferences. I went in and I took a quick look at some other scheduling ones, and I have found Tungle.me, Tungle.me. It is free. It is no ads. And looking at here, I mean, there's 43 different people reviewing it. And this sounds very similar to the appointment slots, where you can go in and, let's see, for first time ever, you can quickly, easily set up your entire organization without requiring employees to create accounts on them. Can instantly become part of your company's culture, blah, 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 blah. And it's, again, very similar to the other tools where you can go in and you can create appointments. I have not installed this, but I would be interested to see how it does work. Now, looking at the reviews, it actually has a very positive review by many, many people here, with the exception of a teacher. And I'd love this. Too many clicks, not simple enough. And the comment by this one person talks about how she's not able to necessarily see how it'll work in education, but it certainly has some value in the business sector. And that is Tungle.me. Now, the other one I wanted to look at now is the Chrome App Store. The Chrome Web Store is a web-based application you don't necessarily need Chrome for, but it helps by, it is in the App Store, so it can be added as one of their little tiny viewable apps that you can just kind of quickly click on, which I think is probably similar to like bookmarking, just a little bit more organized and designed around the HTML5 and the new web. I can't help but say it, 3.0. And the one I found is Planetarium. This has 651 views. And I'm looking at this one, it brings out and it enters in all the constellations. It's really, really nice in that it will find your time zone and tell you what time it is and actually kind of sync to what's going on right now in the sky. I thought that was really cool. And it lists off all the little, here I'm looking at the Big Dipper here, and it shows me center north. So all the constellations are in there. It gives you some locations. So if you want to see what it looks like, and I'm going to go, what's this, Australia over here? And I'm going to click on Australia, and I can see what Australia's sky looks like. Now, when I first looked at this, I'm like, oh my goodness, there's the other program called Google Sky. So I jumped into Google Sky, and they really are a different program. This is just talking about the constellations, looking up at the sky, finding out what things are at different time zones. Google Sky is, the big program that allows you to zoom around, very much like Google Earth, just kind of looking upward. Google Sky didn't really have all the constellations out there, or being able to switch between what you're looking at when. It was kind of driving around the sky, where this is really truly looking at, okay, if you're in Australia, if you're in South America, China, what does the sky look at? What does the what does the sky look like? What constellations are up around that area? And this is going to conclude the app exploration section of the podcast. And I want to thank everybody for this week, for listening in on this week's Google Weekly podcast with your host, Bjorn Barrett. You can follow the podcast or contribute by going to www.google-weekly.net. Thank you for listening, and never stop learning.